want to introduce you to the next project after Code Red, and that is this. We're starting off with another half of a boat, but this is my 1973 Checkmate MX-13, and this boat I've run for a couple of years, nicknamed Mellow Yellow. And the goal with this is to build a competitive T850 race boat out of a Checkmate. So we are gutting it entirely. It's going to be 100% composite boat. And we're going to try to go out and race it next summer in the T850 class. But first, we have to get everything out of it. So that floor needs to go. We're going to open up the core of the boat and probably just get rid of it. We're going to see how thin it is. Once we do that, might recore it, might just leave it without a core. We got to see. Not 100% sure yet, but we have only a couple of months to get this thing done, rigged, and ready for the first race, which is in the beginning of June. So definitely gonna have to hurry up with this one. Now this boat is not gonna get painted. It is definitely gonna be the ugliest T850 boat on the grid. All right, so I have been grinding and cutting for probably 45 minutes, and you can see here, this is an area where I have removed the core. And you can see just how thick the inside of the boat is. Now I know a lot of people say, oh, you know, the core is what gives it its strength, but these boats don't have a core. And if you listen to how thin those are, and you come over here, that is still thicker than that boat is. So I'm hoping that once I gut the entire thing, we can get the weight of this boat down to almost match Code Red here. Now, I'm pretty sure that you guys don't want to watch another 8 minutes of time lapses of me just cutting and grinding up a boat. So I thought I would answer a question that gets asked to me every time I mention this project. And that is, why the hell are you doing this with a Checkmate? To do that, we have to go all the way back to the 1960s. You see, the two main players in the outboard motor game, Evinrude Johnson, or OMC, as I will refer to them from now on, and Mercury, were in a direct battle. They were producing outboards that were more and more powerful every year. Now, as they were bringing out their more and more powerful outboards, they had to create a racing class for these new outboards every time. The North American naming convention for boat racing classes isn't very complex. You had engines up to 10 cubic inches were in the A class. 20 cubic inches were in the B class. 30 cubic inches C, 40 cubic inches D, and 50 cubic inches was called E. Now there are classes larger than this, but that's where we're going to stop because our story is in the E class. More specifically, a class called Family E. Checkmate was one of the many brands racing in FE throughout the 1960s. And most of these brands, like Allison and even Hydrostream, stuff like that, they were all running Mercury engines. Mercury had a 44 cubic inch 4-cylinder that was the engine to run in the E-Class. That was until 1968, when Evinrude Johnson, or OMC, introduced their 49 cubic inch 3-cylinder outboard. Producing 55 horsepower, the OMC was more powerful than the Mercury's, but it was held back a little bit by its larger and not very favorable gear ratio. Boats in FE quickly evolved to make use of the extra power of the 3-cylinder OMC, and brands like Allison started bringing out models that were directly made for this engine. In 1969, Allison debuted the 13R, a boat that, with a 3-cylinder OMC, is a fantastic package. The other brands like Checkmate realized that in order for them to compete in FE, they had to come up with a boat on their own that was dedicated for the 3-cylinder OMC. And so, for the 1971 season, Checkmate debuted the MX-13. The MX-13 was very competitive in its first few seasons in FE, and it works great with a 3-cylinder OMC. Ask me how I know. Checkmate built a ton of MX-13s because they also marketed it as a pleasure boat. You could buy an MX-13 that was stripped out with a single seat ready to race, or you could buy one with 4 seats and carpet and a nice interior. Things were going great for Checkmate in the early 1970s. That was until 1973. When Checkmate had a fire in their factory in Ohio. The molds for the MX-13 were lost. Once the molds for the MX-13 were destroyed, Checkmate themselves never entered FE again. They never built another 13-foot boat with racing in mind. After a few years, OMC introduced a smaller, lower unit and a better gear ratio for their 3-cylinder OMC, which was now all the way up to 75 horsepower. Dubbed the Nitro case, the smaller lower unit paired with a lighter boat like an Allison 13R or a Delta made for a potent package that someone in an old Checkmate just could not keep up with. The MX-13 simply just faded away. It faded into the forest behind your grandparents' cottage. It faded into the ground where people left them to rot. And it's a shame. Since Checkmate made so many of these boats, you can still find them, and they are dirt cheap. Usually the people that own them don't even know what they are, and usually they are filled with fishing gear or have 6 seats in them or giant wooden contraptions to hold a gas tank like this one right here. Yeah. I've personally bought 3 MX-13s over the years. I paid $100 for this one. We paid $300 for the green one. And Mellow Yellow came with an engine that we sold for more than what we paid for the whole package. So technically, Mellow Yellow was free. I love Checkmates, and I want to see what a Checkmate that is built today can do. Modern materials, lightweight, and a 3-cylinder OMC with a nitro case. So that's what I'm aiming to do. Just like that, that core is completely out. Now in reality, it's probably been about 3 weeks since I started cutting this boat apart. But it takes a long time, and other than that one little spot that I showed, this entire boat was completely solid. Pretty crazy for a boat built in 1973. Goes to show how well these were made. Gonna take a little bit of a break from this thing now. kind of sick of looking at the inside of it, so gonna do some engine stuff. Thought maybe we'd put some engines together for Code Red. Okay, so we have our Yamaha Pro 50 trim, swivel tubes taken out, ready to get the grinder out. But first, just gotta take a couple measurements from this. This is the short shaft OMC clamp bracket, and really we just need to know the height from right there to right there, and also that one. And then we will cut this down to the same size. We are 7 15/16 to the bottom, and we are 8 3/8 to the bottom there. So we just have to make this the same, which you can see that is about 8 3/4. So it's not a whole lot that needs to come off this thing. Let's get cutting. All right, got it cut roughly. Steering tube is in, using all of the bushings from the Yamaha. We're just about there. A little bit of cleanup, make it look a little prettier. It should bolt right on. Just like that. We have Yamaha power trim, and now the OMC short shaft midsection will bolt right up. There it is. The start of the engine for Code Red. It's all coming together. This is the engine that is going on that boat. Still gonna have to take it apart again, paint the trim, paint the mid white. And Dad's over here doing lower unit things. We have spent about a couple days sanding the bottom of this boat, but I don't think anyone wants to see that. So we didn't film anything, but it's getting there. It's almost ready for a first round of filler and then primer. If you've made it this far, thank you. And thank you for the support on the T850 Canada t-shirts. We're getting closer to our goal, so that's sweet. And yeah, we'll see you next time.